Everyone, I'm going to give you a deck analysis or discussion on the Kagero clan for Card Fight Vanguard. As you see here, I have Dragonic Overlord the End, and its awesome powers of fire. Anyway, this is technically called the Flame Dragon clan because it deals with dragons and knights and stuff like that. Anyway, this deck discussion will cover if this deck is a non-archetype or archetype deck and how versatile it is. The second criteria that I'm gonna have is aggression. The third criteria is competitiveness. The fourth criteria will be easiness to pilot for players, basically how well the player can do with this deck, and whether that player is a beginner, intermediate player, or advanced player. Basically it's going to tell you the ins and outs of how to win with this deck and why this deck is so powerful and all that. So I'll be grading this clan on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, for all of these utilities, factors, I guess, these multivariable factors and criterias. So this Kagero clan focuses on retiring units, specifically your opponent's units, via your units, and allows you, the controller of this deck, to choose what type of unit you want to retire from your opponent's field, which is really powerful because when you have choices in life or in Vanguard, they're very powerful because whatever you make, whatever decision you decide to make with this deck determines your future and if you can win or lose or succeed over your opponent. Kind of a moral lesson there, I guess. Decisions are important, people. Anyway, first off, this is a non-archetype deck. If you don't know what a archetype deck is or what a non-archetype deck is, then you should check out the next video. But because I did a Narukami deck profile, well, it's not really a deck profile. It's talking like about the Narukami clan, and that is a archetype deck. So a archetype deck is basically a deck that revolves around a certain card or a certain boss monster, such as Eradicated Dragonic Descendant. In that deck, all the cards are Eradicators, which means Eradicated Dragonic Descendant would not be able to work in any other deck because it needs Eradicator cards for its effect to work. So basically, he's your boss monster, and you need other cards to help him work of the same name. That is what a archetype is. Every clan in Vanguard has a archetype now as their subclan. So the Kagero clan currently has, I believe, 1. Which is Seal Dragons. Same thing, all the cards in that deck are named Seal Dragons, so they have Seal Dragon in their names, and they all work together. So moving on to this deck, or back to this deck, this is a non-archetype deck, which means it doesn't require any specific name to be in the card text for you to activate abilities, which I like because it gives you more options and more flexibility. So, this is basically, if you know how to build it right, a deck that can win you games if you know how to build it correctly. But, this deck is pretty much a random cards from the Kagero clan slapped together and made to work with each other, pretty much. And I would give this criteria, a non-archetype or archetype deck, a 5 out of 5, because since this Kagero deck, Dragonic Overlord the End specifically, does not require a archetype name to activate its effects, it is crazy, because I'll read off its effect real quick. I might be going out of order here, but If you have a non-Kagero Vanguard, this unit loses 2k, I believe that. I believe so. It loses 2,000, or like it can't attack or something like that. It's something along those lines. But that is irrelevant because it is counted as a Kagero unit because it is a flame dragon, and obviously being a flame dragon, you're the king of the skies, I guess. So yeah, moving on to its next ability. If Counterblast 2, which means, well, I'll explain the abilities later. Flip two cards in your damage zone over, and when you attack and the attack hits with this Vanguard, this attack hits any of your opponent's units in the front row, so they're 2 rear guards or Vanguard. You can activate this ability and discard a copy of itself, also known as a Persona Blast, into the drop zone from your hand and restand it. So it's awesome. Which I'll get into a little bit later when I review another card that combos very well with this deck, or this dragon. Its third ability is, if you have a Dragonic Overlord in the soul, he gains 2,000 power. I don't play him. I don't play Dragonic Overlord. The soul is basically like the stack that is underneath your current Vanguard. All the cards that are underneath your Vanguard, and the top, which is the top card of your deck, is considered your soul, or your soul stack, as people like to call it, which allows you to activate certain abilities. But I don't run him, and if you run Dragonic Overlord, he is a 13k attacker at all times. So yeah, this guy's the 13k attacker at all times. Its final ability is Lord. If you have another unit of a different clan than Kagero, say like I have 4 units that are Kagero and 1 unit is of a different clan, this card can attack, so it's really awesome. And since I'm not running him, I'm not running Dragonic Overlord, this Vanguard, or this unit, will always stay at 11,000. Next criteria is the aggression, or excuse me, the versatility of this deck. As I said before, versatility is very easy to like change in this deck, because since you're open to any other card, like every card in Kagero, playing this deck as a non-archetype deck, then it gives you a lot of choices and flexibility on what you want to do in this deck with this deck. So I give it a 5 out of 5, meaning that if future cards come out for Kagero and they are stronger than like they help make this deck stronger, you can add it into your deck without worrying about certain limitations and restrictions. Next, after versatility, is aggression. Aggression is very powerful with this deck because since this Vanguard stands, or should I say restands, when it hits your opponent, it applies massive amounts of pressure because they need to guard they need to guard 2 attacks potentially. And on top of this, this card does not lose Twin Drive, so you check 2, and then when it restands and you attack again, it checks 2 as well. So it's pretty good. I'll explain it to you guys later. Well, the abilities in a separate video. But moving on to competitiveness, I give aggression a 5 out of 5. Competitiveness, it's very competitive because of this guy's ability. This dragon's ability actually is Dauntless Drive Dragon. Its ability is Limit Break. Limit Break 4. This ability is active when you have 4 more damage. So this is basically pretty much a restraint, because you must have 4 damage in order to activate this. If you have less than that, then you cannot activate this. When another Kagero unit rides on top of this unit, that unit gains plus 10,000 power and a new skill, which is this. Choose 3 Kagero cards from your hand and discard it. If this unit attacks and this unit did not stand, you may pay the cost. If you do, restand this unit. And I'll talk a little bit about the ruling too. This Dauntless Drive Dragon, or D-Cubed as I like to call it, combined with Dragonic Overlord the End, sorry for the glare, is very powerful because it allows you to get off technically, essentially 2 attacks, if you're lucky 3 altogether with Dragonic Overlord the End skill. However, the ruling is, and I apologize for the lighting, the ruling is that if you ride Dragonic Overlord on Dragonic Overlord the End on top of Dauntless Drive Dragon, and you attack with Dragonic Overlord the End, and you activate his ability of counterblasting 2 and discarding a copy of himself, or Persona Blasting, you cannot activate Dauntless Drive Dragon's ability because it says if this unit did not stand this turn. So you must activate Dauntless Drive Dragon's ability first if you want to attack with the End the second time. But if you do it the other way around, where you activate Dragonic Overlord the End skill first, you cannot restand because Dauntless Drive Dragon's ability will just be negated because he says if this unit did not stand. And if Dragonic Overlord the End does stand, then you can activate it. This is also known as a break ride because it's, well, it's just a reused term, break ride. So, yeah, and Dauntless Drive Dragon is very unique in that when you have more rear guards than your opponent, it attacks for 2,000, it gains 2,000 power, and thus is always a 13k attacker, or 13,000 attacker, if you have more rear guards than your opponent. The last ability is Lord because it's just like same thing like Dragonic Overlord. If you have if you have 4 units on the field of the same clan and you have 1 that is not of the same clan, this card cannot attack. So yeah. So that's pretty much what I want to go over with you guys. So seeing how Dragonic Overlord and Dauntless Drive Dragon are so good together, it makes this deck really, really, really competitive, because not only that, you need to worry about how much shield you have in your hand and how many attacks your opponent is able to get off, which is awesome. So yeah, I say this deck is very competitive. I'll give it a 5 out of 5. Next is easiness to pilot. For this deck to be piloted, I would say everyone can pilot this, even beginners, but you need to know how to attack, when to attack, when to hold back, and stuff like that. But I'll say starting off, it is a very, very, very good deck for beginners because it's so versatile. And personally, I would not recommend beginners to go with archetype decks unless they really like that the style of that deck in which they're playing, because every deck in Vanguard is different in how they play and what they can do. So yeah. So yeah, and I would also mention the budget, but I'll do that in a separate video because I did not do it for the next 4 videos, and so I will have all my 4 decks laid out in a straight row and discuss about budget and basically how to invest in Cardfight Vanguard. So this concludes my card analysis on the Kagero clan. And yeah, peace.